Thank you for checking in. It's Glenn Lyvers with the Prolific Press Poets, some of my favorite poets from all over the world. This is the July 2024 poetry reading event. Poets are invited to read three poems, up to three poems, or limited to a certain time period. We appreciate you coming. I hope you enjoy the show. This will be posted on YouTube, and it will also be available on Facebook for those who love poetry. And we'll get started with Doug. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Doug VanHooser. I'm in Wisconsin, and my first poem is apropos to the time of year. This is when the daylilies bloom and the wild phlox tries to take over. The poem's entitled Wild Phlox. Daylilies box with the phlox, a wildflower that won't be tamed or broken. Champion puncher that showers relentless jabs of volunteer seed that impregnate every crack, crevice, and cranium of earth. I succumb to the blue bonniest smiles, let them swamp the garden, and wait until the bees are through repelling bloom to bloom before pulling on their defiance. Their roots strangle all reason, have to be evicted by shovel, but I am assured of their return. The garden on their migration route, their spawn already planted in the earth's eddies, are reaching into the soil, searching for flaws. And the second poem I'm going to read is supposed to be funny. I'm in a playwright's workshop, and one of the other writers in there is a woman, and she found out I was going to buy a car and started asking me what I was going to buy, and I told her I didn't have any idea. And every model car that I named, she would reply, "Oh, I had a boyfriend that had one of those." So that led to this. The title of it is Domestic Vehicles. Boyfriends are like cars, the countless Ford and Chevy models, the one over large SUV, an airhead convertible. Tried a station wagon, that didn't last long. Mostly, I pick cars that run on premium. Had sex in a Porsche without a back seat. Thank God his gut didn't match his wallet. Dumped him when he pulled up to a Motel 8. What a cheapskate. There was the Beamer, the vet with a vet. Guy's quick off the line, but not interested in a Le Mans length relationship. Once, I went for a clunker, thinking this will be new. The engine puffed like a chain smoker. The transmission was full of banana peels. Left that car by the side of the road. Then there was the vintage car guy. Took 2 spaces to park it. Used thumbs up to answer envy's jealous waves. Stuck in the past, I didn't see a future. Most guys fail to accelerate through corners, don't know when to shift, grind the gears, have tires with slow leaks that must be pumped up again and again. At least you can trade in one model for another, with the hope there is more horsepower under the hood. Perhaps I should try a family sedan? You want me to read one more, or should I let her go here, Glenn?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
Airhead convertible. That was great. That's
Right.
good.
This poem's in 4 sections. I think you'll catch on to it. I jumped for the saddle, but the saddle wasn't there. Things I need to take to the grave. Regrets that chime like a clock. Attempts that still circle the drain. Lies that whisper a hoarse reminder. Memories that flash like lightning, thunder never forget. False starts that never hear the starter's gun. Time that wanders over the same path again and again. Endings that repeat like a song's chorus. Successes that only huff and puff. Ghosts that haunt me. The effort it takes to forget an abandoned nest. The time-release pill of an imagined affair. The past's constant aim to lasso me. How quickly all rivulets of sweat evaporate. When I look in the mirror, do I know who I see? Only viewing all paths from ground level. that I will never play the piano or recite poetry in Gaelic, the times I didn't instead of do. A few things I have learned. Beginnings are humble, endings are humbling. New ground doesn't break until you put a shovel in and turn over the soil. Generally, the gist of it is all I know. Failure births hope, a hand I can't release. Finishing what you begin gets tougher the longer it takes. Most remorse results from giving up. Best results come when you kick your own ass. There are no stirrups when you ride bareback. In summation, it's not the abrasions, welts, and fractured bones. It's the smile, the wink, the pat on the back. Thank you.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Boy, you are in the zone. Really, really in the zone. That's fantastic. I do have sharing available to everybody that wants to use it. Let me let Lynette Esposito back in. She's having a little bit of trouble. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see what I see, and we'll read a couple off of my website that I just wrote these. I may edit them a little bit. I've been pressing into the bucolic a little more lately, and there's still a place for that. I do like that a lot. So I wanted to write a haiku about mustard flowers, and then I thought about yellow being kind of this cowardly color, and I ended up with this one haiku. Let me just mute Doug's mic there. Okay. After the battle, fields of mustard flowers bloom, deserters return. After the battle, fields of mustard flowers bloom, deserters return. I have a poet coming in, so I'm going to pause for a minute. And then this piece I just did called Forever in Indiana. And it started out as a different poem, but you know how they take over and they kind of become their own thing. And this began as a sort of this legend poem, and then it turned into this. I wander Indiana's familiar cornfields, where combines thrum the rhythm of life. Maple and oak, voiceless keepers of secrets, stand as solitary guardians in the fields, as shade and rest, forgotten grave markers. In this place, time flows differently. And beyond these rolling pastoral farms, the Wabash limps quietly along, a brown thread dividing a patchwork of fields. So slowly you might mistake her for a pond, where willows dip fingers into her wistful belly, and dragonflies dart between purple blooms. Peace settles in like the final hush of cicadas. I wish you were here with me again, in these fields we took for granted in our youth, and we could live forever in one ageless breath, our spirits blending with the sacred land, becoming part of the mystery that is this place. Close your eyes and you can feel us changing. From time to time, people will swear they see us from the corner of their eye, embracing as lovers do. Airy figures lingering in the sunburst's fading light. And with heartfelt reverence, they will recount the legend of two aging lovers who slipped gently away into the tender honesty of twilight in Indiana. Look hard up to the thinning heavens, suddenly stars. And my wife and I recently visited my father, who's having a lot of trouble, and I penned this poem of our aging fathers. Walk with me under the generous sky, and let us think of our fathers. Their hands, though now gentle with age, still carry the memory of ancient oaks. In their frailty, we see the passage of time, no promise of tomorrow, only the beauty of every present moment with them, cherishing the fleeting grace of now. See how they move through the world with the determination of a stream, carving paths through stubborn rocks, drawn by the silent pull of purpose. In the mornings, a shadowed veil falls over the memory of dew-kissed grasses. Age, a relentless teacher, becomes a friend. Each lesson a well-remembered step. Remember how he taught you about nature, to stop and just listen? Can you go there again? Hear the muted murmur of water in the distance? Can you smell it for a mile? Or you can smell it for a mile. Wool and moss. Picture him sitting there in that green place, again in the evening's golden glow, his eyes, two wells of sacred wisdom, reflecting the setting sun, stories untold. Remember, he will always be with you in every breath of wind, every rustle of leaves, guiding the stars in the night sky, leading you home when you've lost your way. Just listen. To all our fathers, familiar trail breakers, whose love flows like a never-ending river, whose spirit, though aged, remains steadfast, we pledge our hearts in sincere gratitude, forever bound to their enduring legacy. Thank you. Appreciate the love. And let's go on to Lynette Esposito, please.
Hello, this is Lynette Esposito from Mount Laurel, New Jersey, sitting on my porch, shielded from the hot sun in New Jersey. I have 3 poems ready. The first is I See Your Image in the Water. As the breeze stirs the lake, your image comes and goes, gives the water invisible legs that kick the shore over and over again. I watch the water mesmerized. I am stroked by the wind, just like the water, and feel your touch as if the chill is from the tips of your fingers. And I am not cold, even though I know you are. Yep. And the second one is Elements. Memories strung together like green leaves change color with time and season, altering landscapes, with textures crumbled like delicate flakes that refuse to completely decompose, but wither and revive in new forms and elements in the mind, with invisible legs that never stop running, trying to beat the wind, their stems turned upward to catch the light. That's it. And this is a memorial poem for a friend. She was the wind with legs running. Some embraced and tried to hold her, but she was fast. Some moved through her. Some cradled her in their arms, protective and loving. But she was a free spirit and flew away, a bird with hollow wings, invisible as the magic of life, a breeze in spring where her green thoughts presented poetry until the song of her ended. And the wind grew silent amongst the summer leaves. All is still because of her passing. She was the wind.
Thank you very much. That was very nice. Beautiful testament to your friend. Peter Yaramko, please.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm Peter Yaramko. I live in New Haven, Connecticut. And the poem I'd like to read was just accepted by an anthology that's launching on Monday called Connecticut Bards. And I'm going to read it there, and I thought I'd share it with you. New Haven, for those of you who may not know, is on the coastline of Connecticut. And we do have a lot of seagulls in our city. And this poem is called When Seagulls Speak. The seagulls must smell spring this morning, though I myself could not. It was still a February in which the Punxsutawney rodent had seen his shadow, promising us 6 more weeks of winter weather, and March to come roaring in like a lion only a few days hence. It was the oddness of the gull's call that grabbed my attention, what fishermen in these parts call mewing, an early alert of a storm at sea. But the day was calm, and I doubted it was foul weather driving these birds inland from the open water to circle the sun-filled skies of New Haven. Maybe they send an alert of some kind to those who know how to hear, like dogs that begin barking in foreknowledge of an imminent earthquake. No, these feathered mooches must smell spring and cannot contain themselves at the prospect of easy pickings from people soon to venture forth from their apartments to picnic on the green. I breathed deep, hoping for a scent of Easter, and asked why we haughty humans always assume nature tries to tell us something. Sometimes birds speak only to themselves, and sometimes to God alone. And I have one other I wasn't planning to read, but since we have the time, I thought I would share it with you. I teach cancer patients how to write poetry to help them deal with their trauma. And I tell them, just start with one line, just write the first line and see what happens. Magic happens. So I tried it myself, because the other night I woke up at 3 o'clock, as I usually do, and I had this first line in my brain. So in the morning I wrote this, and it surprised me. I called it Little Boy. I am the little boy afraid to lose my mama in the big city department store, fearing she'd never emerge from the curtained dressing room. I am the little boy occupied with the truck she gave me, playing on the floor as she shopped and avoiding the stares of bulky women annoyed that I'm there at all in the way. I am the little boy afraid to lose my love to Brad Pitt eyes. So I hit her. Thanks.
Wow, there was quite a surprise there at the end of that. Didn't see that coming.
I didn't either, Glenn.
You kind of hit me too. I feel like I've been accosted. Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to Mike Flanagan, please.
Hi, this is Mike Flanagan. I live outside of St. Paul in Minnesota, and I have a two tanka and a haiku. And the tanka were both in Art of Tanka, which is a fairly new journal. Like the wind clattering the bamboo, a burst of slushy rain breaks the silence of this autumn afternoon. Like the wind clattering the bamboo, a burst of slushy rain breaks the silence of the autumn afternoon. That was in Art of Tanka #1, so kind of a plank owner for that magazine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Between sand and water, the path we left carelessly alone, now gone forever. Between sand and water, the path we left carelessly alone, now gone forever. And the haiku was in Blythe Spirit. Veterans Clinic, 2 service dogs swap war stories. Veterans Clinic, 2 service dog dogs swap war stories. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. Good turn on that first line, on that first piece too. It was very nice. Okay, Linda Imbler, please.
That's me. Hi, everybody. I'm here in Wichita, Kansas, and it's hot. I have 3 poems to read. One of them is a reaction to Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, where he's talking about choices. Mine is called What Will Be Your Dance? No more laws or rules to tell us how to conduct ourselves. With joy and sorrow still both present to make us feel alive, what form then will either take? What will echo the song of your convictions, the sound of you achieving goals and dreams? Would you volunteer the transfer of a few encumbrances to help unburden another? Will bartenders still serve advice as well as drinks to those whose ramblings only seek a tree on which to hang solace? Without a soul in sight, what shall be your dance? This act, the definitive test of all your thoughts and feelings, held deep inside. Thank you. And then I have 2 poems that are, you kind of inspired me on this with your Indiana poem, Glenn. My book, Bus Lights, Travel Sites, Nashville and Back. I went on a 9-day excursion across 5 states and by bus, met a lot of people, saw some of the coolest stuff you've ever seen, and wrote this entire book about my journey. And this is the foreword. It's called Finding Helium as You Travel. Perhaps you think I have floated away among all these lusters. Look for me atop the hills of Kentucky with mint green grass and vivid violet patches below cobalt skies. Touch my sun-kissed skin while standing beside sepia white sandy shores, bearing baby powder pebbles next to turquoise pearl seas, below cerulean shamrock waves. Search for my eyes across fields of inchworm olive green, amid plants of purple pizzazz and leaves of screaming green, flowers of cotton candy razzmatazz. Hear my heartbeat along the trails found on desert sands, glowing as mango tango, orange maroon, neon carrot, middle yellow, or bittersweet. Hunt for my soul within the regal St. Peter's Church, sit surreptitiously atop silver periwinkle glaciers, reflecting blizzard blue. Taste my lips at the apex of the mountains, made of eggplant, umber, and sunglow rock. I sit and wait for you. And then the other one is the last train past Clarksville. This was in Kentucky. We passed the Cumberland Furnace Cemetery. It was an interesting little place. We didn't stop there, but we kind of brought some images to mind, and I wrote them here. The graveled blunder of death at the Cumberland Furnace Cemetery, beyond the entry gate and the naughty shanty of a burial registration building. A building lacking entrance at or after midnight, rows and rows of elderly graves. There's much fatherly seniority here, but not all the residents are old. One thing is common here, the sustained parity of levelness of each person's space. Each of the gray ones here has had breath squelched, and something inside has given way. They all stare into blackness, donating their bodies to the devouring gratitude of nature's live in the dirt scavengers. There's never enough time for any of us. They have all hedged their bets in this garden. They have all exhibited to someone that disclosing pallor evident while lying upon their patient tables at clinics or at home in their own beds. The composed emphasis of the emotions, the connections of those who love them, dying quotes set upon tombstones, old, but many epitaphs still evident, although the wind has shaved off layers of stone. So many chaplets have been held here to reverse and forbid dying, but no amount of prayer can return the non-transient from this elite club to their former state. We pray for all who are deceased from declining age or from disease. Second childhood does not protect from inevitable death's effects. Thank you.
Thank you. This thing Billy Collins recently, well, not recently, a couple of years ago, did an interview, and he was talking about this, how poets romanticize the act of death so often that every poet has to have a death poem. You know, we all have to grapple with that. We all think about that, and how can we say it differently? And I read so many of them, and I thought yours did sort of ring a little different, and it's hard to do. I liked it very much. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Dennis Maulsby, please.
I'm Dennis Maulsby from Ames, Iowa, and my first poem will be about death. It's a little bit different. This is a poem in the manner of Edgar Lee Masters' Spoon River Anthology, and all the poems in there are auto-epitaphs, or people speak from their grave. Patty Morgan. Me ma and Da found a safe home in Spoon River, fleeing from the famine. They bound me to the wild songs of old Ahern. I became your fiddler man and called up the magic of the dance. Well, now ye hired me when ye wanted your spirits to soar. Me fiddle made your feet flash, all the lasses' petticoats spinning out like flowers blooming, their petals, blue, ivory, and peach. Twists of lilac, women's scent, drifted in the air, spun off golden skin by the dance's heat. A bit of poteen to quench me thirst, and me bulwark dazzled your eyes. Faster, faster, heel and toe, polishing the wood floor with your soles, and your souls with whoops of joy. Then came a day of darkness and silence. You buried me with me fiddle and bow. Jesus, I wish I could play again. Aye. And the second is a bit of an ekphrastic poem. Breezes jostle clusters of bull thistles, switchgrass, and jimson weeds. Feral heirloom hollyhocks sway, rap against the faded paint of shiplap siding. In play with the winds, stained calico curtains become signal flags, flapping in blind second-story windows. Tiny taloned pigeon feet tap dance in the attic. Their blue-gray wings flutter in a cappella harmony. A solitary rocker waits on the front porch. Sun-bleached oak bones turned ash-gray. Gusts whistle through broken-toothed porch latticework, slither around curlicue-carved columns to bat the rocker. Its dusty twin runners exhale double mouse squeaks as they move back and forth. The rocking teases up memories of red yarn-haired Raggedy Ann dolls, flowered sundresses, lemonade, and sugar cookies. And the final one is my reflections on my trip to Key West, where I visited the Ernest Hemingway house. The sun also rises, open in my lap. I sit on a slat-backed park bench, wrapped in a so pallid November day. A world of gray in shades of stone-colored Victorian parlors, or the sky-washed slate of Queen Anne turrets. Skins of passing cars fade to pastels, their eye-bright reds, blues, yellows. Drab-husked shadows diminish to rusty terracotta, dusty lavender, creamy aged linen. A student pedals by in smoky slowness. Music throbbing from her earbuds releases the peppery cymbal chokes of Metallica. I yearn for the comrades and sun of Key West, a Papa Hemingway world of six-toed cats, a urinal fountain, birthing stools, and the strike of black Corona keys. Its dry-skinned ribbon, a typed-over fused record of brawling stories. An old man struggles on a foam-bearded sea. Russet-mottled bulls and crimson-scarred men run cobbled streets. Clustered safari tents cuddle the jade-fat hips of Mount Kilimanjaro. These last few marvels, the last of what might have been, soak in the silence of suicide.
Nice termination to that piece, actually. You just like suddenly shifted. I was stuck on that Old Man in the Sea enjambment, and then all of a sudden it bloomed into that sort of unexpected turn. Very interesting. Well done. Edward Ahern, please.
Okay, Ed Ahern, Fairfield, Connecticut. My bragging rights are a novel that's been hidden in the bowels of my computer for some years now that finally got picked up. So it has nothing to do with poetry. It's a thriller, but I'm tickled anyway. And the poems. The Faltering is running on the 8th in the Society of Classical Poets, if you want to see it again. The Faltering. In time, the sharpest mind begrimes with rust, and memories are flaked from softened steel. Beliefs once clutched and voiced in utter trust now falter and befog in weakened zeal. The brilliance once displayed now cracks like crust, and any efforts to reheal unseal. The process always seems unfair, unjust, and moves ahead no matter how we feel. Yet in the messy yard sale of our mind, and failing parts and leakage of the frame, that which is lost reveals a simpler core, a trusting grasp of those still near and kind, a sense of wonder at a losing game, a thanks for almost all that came before.
Almost all. I like it.
Yeah, I hadn't written a sonnet in a long time, and I thought I was a little overdue. This one is clearly not serious, but observational at least. At the health club, the strain of muscles under creping skin, I best enjoy in public, paid for venue, where as an ancient I can unnoticed observe the vagaries of the younger. The menagerie of hues of skin and clothes performs in public largely for themselves, outward display of inward obsessive, an exception being trolling for hookups. Couples appear like lawn dandelions, rare enough to be noticed whispering, and power lifters bulging on machines talk in different affection, mostly to each other. Repeat obsessors pose before mirrors or on equipment in front of their phones, all before strangers they don't talk to, in barely sweaty self-indulgence. I accept most, acknowledge many, and remember the names of relatively few. A geriatric poser with aching muscles, a shorts and tea witness to absurdities. And the last one is called Empty Beach, slightly more serious. Early morning is the time of absences and the unsettling of unique presence, when up and down the churning surf ribbon, only straggled birds and bubbling clams hold haphazard position in emptiness. And the lone biped, ignored as insignificant, feels his fusty persona leaching out on the windblown sand over green water until the purging reveals a raw loneliness that must be poulticed with the spit of others.
Yeah, Bob, I grabbed that too, that the word fusty. That was fantastic. That's a good word. It says so much. I like it. Thank you for that. All right, moving right along, as the Muppets would say. Francis Flavin.
Good morning. Well, good afternoon, everyone there. It's finally, we got below 3 digits here in Nevada, so the heat is not so bad at 97 as it was at 107. My first poem is going to wax a little nostalgic. I grew up in rural upstate New York, and there were only 3 kids within 5 miles to play with in the 1950s. And for some reason or other, we've all managed to make contact after about 5 decades. So it sort of gets your mind going back to days of yore. First one is Lilac Days. Resting unsteadily at the edge of the woods, the little structure seemed more an extension of the brooding forest than a dwelling place. With its shingles in disarray, the sway-back slate roof capped a dilapidated gray structure. Dry clots of ancient paint clung to weathered wood like parched barnacles on a wooden whale. The foundation was obscured by moss and ferns. It was a hovel. It was an eyesore. It was home. It was a tough place for mother, a frustration for father, and an adventure for a young boy. With the rabid sightings and loose doors, the weather lived inside with the family. Winter was an ordeal of frost and drafts. Winter winds sliced through the cracks and empty knotholes. The single kerosene stove glowed orange as it labored to counteract winter's home invasion. The harsh realities of winter were vanquished in spring's exaltation of scent and sound, and the sunlight streaming through the green glass windows. The old house seemed to merge with the field and forest. Robin eggs on the upstairs window's ledge competed with the fragmented spring firmament for the purest blue. By Mother's Day, the 3 lilac bushes in the front yard were in full bloom, their scent enveloping the grounds and sweeping into the house and my mother's soul. In the early morning, I could see her standing transfixed before the 3 lilacs, 2 purple and 1 white, a glimpse of Elysium in sunlight and dew. The second one, I apologize, I may have read this. I had prepared it for the flower reading that I don't think we did. And if I have read it, I apologize, but it's called Fireweed in Autumn. A sentinel for 3 seasons, the fireweed stands unsteady in the freshening breeze. A phoenix of scorched earth, its seeds break out in gossamer clouds, seeking newly ravaged lands to restore. What flowers remain from their long journey up the stem pause, as if in silent reflection. Do the petals recall the rush of spring, the storms of summer? Like old men nodding in the sun, do they bask in remembrance or fear the coming clutch of winter? And finally, the last one is Transcendence. I thought this might be appropriate in this time of our country. The true things are within us, even if illusory. We take our treasured experiences and slide them past our hearts and turn them in our minds until all the rough edges and vain imperfections are burnished away and all is smooth and beautiful and true. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just want to take one little quick break here to talk about a piece, a new chapbook. It'll be hitting the Prolific Press bookstore today. And it's written by a poet named Marjorie Gowdy. She writes and paints on a farm in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. And the keen observations in this is really a nice, vivid experience that she has. This is the cover of the book, and this, oops, over here, this is a actual picture that she painted, which we went ahead and used as the cover. So it's a nice piece. We've been pushing to get the publishing platform back up and running. We have actually about 10 acceptances in the queue here that we're just about to send out to a bunch of people. This is a chapbook, of course, and so look for that on the bookstore, and it'd be great if you go pick up a copy of that. We're going to move on now to Michael Watterson, please. Is Michael still here?
I am, thank you. Sorry, I had to unmute.
All right, there you are.
So I just have two today. Thanks, Glenn. Thank you, fellow word nerds. These two appeared recently in an anthology called Tiny Moments. The first one is titled A Small Fortune. While trying to make heads or tails of life, one morning on a stroll, a glint at my feet minted me a Picayune reckoning. Would the time spent picking it up be worth more than a penny? Currency isn't what it used to be, though made of zinc, a mineral less dear than original copper. The cost to stamp 1 cent exceeds its value tendered. Back when a penny had some weight, they said one dropped from atop the Empire State Building could kill a pedestrian below. These days, no one buys that. Why then should Lincoln's profile gild this chintzy token? Choose a chief of lesser metal, like Hoover, the guy in charge when everyone went broke. Our frugal northern neighbors scrapped their equivalent slug, banking on the notion rounded payments balance on the bottom line. Then again, a daydream whispered, this might be a rarity, a numismatic jackpot. The heart's a gambler, calls the toss-up. We all live in the red. Bowing to the goddess fortune, I plucked a penny in lieu of a 4-leaf clover, cashing luck of meager coinage with the hope it will compound. Thank you. And this also appeared in the same anthology recently. It's titled Unknown Names. It's based on an event 20 years ago where a kind of wandering sea lion actually swam upriver some about 20 miles or so and wandered onto a motorcycle lot and was more than once, on several occasions, he wandered up on land and started wandering around strip malls and car lots. This is called Unknown Names. Where was he going? Swimming upriver, waddling onto a motorcycle lot, eyeing rows of gleaming Harleys as if in the market to buy. Blown away onlookers dubbed him Shopper as they laughed and shot video of the whiskered visitor, waddling bike to bike, flapping and rolling in waves of attention. Deemed healthy, tagged, returned to the sea, the genial pinniped was found days later in a vineyard, shot dead. Mistaken for a deer, some reckoned, or a stray bullet. A mean drunk, others fired back, a loose cannon killing time. The high caliber reward netted no triggerman or motive. O wild God, as I wander in circles within aimless circles, give me direction. Thank you.
Thank you. It's interesting to see a poem end on a prayer like that, because we used to see it all the time, and I don't see it quite as often. It's really, really poignant because it's that resonance, you know, the reverence of prayer. The reader suddenly settles into that, and then the poem propels it forward, and it just resonates beyond itself. It's, you know, it's this thing that happens. That's just wonderful. Really appreciated that one.
Thank you.
Did you have another?
I do not, just have two today, but
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Very well done. Like that. Okay, James Bethel, please.
There we go. Had to find the mute button. Yes, I am James Allen Bethel, and I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a tiny little cottage sitting on the edge of a suburban area. I have three to share with you. And the first one is entitled, Everything Needed to Be Said About Geese Has Already Been Said by Mary. I think about her and them in the morning early, gathering at the pond nearby. That's where the resident blue heron makes her daily dawn a patient appearance. Occasionally, there's a tiny sock, never a matched pair, left at the pond's edge or right. Another one having begun that long walk toward freedom. This one was prompted by a quote by Julian Schnabel and in a film he did about Van Gogh. I paint with my qualities and my faults. And the title is To the Ear, Daylight Comes. The reason for a flower? Perhaps an epic book-length poem, but lightly incomprehensible. Better, a painter to her canvas, hearing a single note sounded from the monk's gong from across the mountain lake. This one is recent and still very much in process. And it has a prompt dedication to just three first names, Joni, Helen, and Garrison. And the title of it is Finding a Lost Mind. Clouds come and go, but are still clouds, just as do illusions. If fortune allows, love comes and as illusions go, but is still love. Confounded, pride insists illusions are real, silencing our out loud embrace of the one moment when we could have known what it meant to be alive. In that one moment, we could have forgiven the world. Forgiven the world for all of the mistakes we made. All of the lovers and the love they made. Nothing between them was ever a mistake. All that is truly for love's sake is not wasted and will never die. Thank you, guys.
Thank you too. That's really nice. That the part of that poem where you said it's still love, you know. I don't know, something that happened when I heard that, it just reminds you like how many times relationships change or are relabeled, you know, but it's still love. I mean, it's still this core thing that never changes. That's so nice. I just was having a conversation about this the other day. Somebody was asking me how it is that I have such a great relationship with my ex-wife, and you know, and my response was one where I said, You know, it's weird how a person could love somebody, want to spend the rest of their life with them, and then because it doesn't work out, suddenly they think upon back on that person like they're evil, they're horrible, they're the
Yeah.
worst, the personification of devil, terrible horror, just because, sometimes things don't work out, And if you really believe that, if you really believe that the person you chose is now this horrible monster of a thing, something's wrong with you,
That's
right?
right.
You're the problem.
Right.
Okay. Chris Wood, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from Chattanooga, Tennessee. This first one is called Abandoned to the Interstate. It's published in the Pulse back in May. Abandoned to the Interstate. Dark clouds hang low over the hollowed out building and shell gas pumps. Weeds thrive in the crack and crevices of the faded asphalt parking lot. Concrete posts, flaking yellow, guard the long ago gas price clinging to the fuel station, layered in age and black mold. The sign, peeling with memories, looms over the once thriving truck stop. I can still hear the dishes clanging, jukebox playing Eastbound and Down, and truckers flirting with the waitresses. This next one is published in Poetry as Promised back in December of 23. It's called Supper Time. Whiffs of pot roast simmering in the crock pot greet me when I get home from work. A vision of Grandma, her thinning white hair and wrinkled skin, spooning meat juices over the roast, sails into my memory. I stepped down, tripped across the illusion of her kitchen, the linoleum floor, and almost crashed into her white metal cabinets and formica countertops. Grandpa sat at his usual spot in front of the window. I can still see the sheer white curtains tied back in crisscross fashion, the gauzy view of the garden where the steamy bowl of kale came from. Ready to eat? My husband asks, snapped back to the present. Only the aroma of pot roast remains. And this one was just published in parentheses. It's called Betrayal. I defended them, spent my summer afternoons watching them carry their heavy loads into the square white box and witness their bare legs as they fly out. We had 3 hives. One Dad started from Grandpa's, one he got from a customer's back deck, and one that swarmed in the crabapple tree. They traveled far, miles even, to gather the nectar of clover and wildwood blooms, to pack their hind legs with pollen, to fill the hive with buzzing and toil. The promise of what would become inspired me, the work of 12 bees in just 1 teaspoon. When I was 11, I stepped on a honeybee. A cold jab shot up my body as the guts continued to pump poison through the arch of my bare foot. My dad scraped the stinger with his fingernail, but the damage was done. I limped through the screen door, my head throbbing, hives rising on my arms, legs, and face, tears spilling as my eyes swelled shut, my throat closing, each breath more labored. Mom rushed me to the hospital, needles poked in each arm, each thigh, and a nurse struggled to connect the IV to the rolling veins in the bend of my left elbow. I hid in my room the rest of that summer. Fall harvest came and went. I didn't watch the creamy white coating sliced from each frame or see the gooey goodness cascade from its waxy comb and flow into mason jars. Shoes cover my feet when I walk outside. The call to clover still silent, honey bittered. Thank you.
Thank you. Honey bittered. That's great. I love that. Okay, so Bob Moorland will be next, and after Bob, Mary Gunn will go, then KB Ballentine and Debbie Walker last. And if you're in here and I haven't mentioned your name and you haven't read, send me a direct message, please. Bob Moorland.
I'm Bob Moorland. I'm from Carroll Beach, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. And this first is a prose poem entitled Impact. Professor stands, a warrior against disease, having fought a long campaign begun 3 decades before. Enemy, a virus of unknown etiology, suspected but long eluded his attempts, his analysis. Then captured at last, dissected and probed, he unlocked its code and secrets until it yielded knowledge to staunch this disease's morbidity. An invited talk in Melbourne, he leaves his work, goes to share. First class seat, settles in, reviewing slides and notes, collecting his thoughts. A 12-hour flight. He has much to do, plan the next steps for future research, proteges to train, grants to write, money to fund the work for a real cure. He smiles. God forbid, maybe even a Nobel speech to ponder. Reverie bumped by turbulence, he gazes out the window, lush farmland below. A flash catches his eye. Mesmerized, he sees a wispy tendril reaching upwards to him, a sign from below, beckoning. Blinding flash, his life abruptly ends. Molecules of memory dispersed for the 6-mile plummet, still bound by gravity. And the epigram is Professor Joop Lang, HIV researcher, Department of Medicine, University of Amsterdam, was one of 298 victims of the Malaysian airline flight 17 shot down 10 years ago near Kharkov, Ukraine, July 17th, 2015. Thank you. Glenn, you mentioned Langford Hughes, and definitely a favorite. So this is one that's relatively new and has Langston Hughes in mind. It's called Leaving for Harvard. Late evening, dew-damp cowpath height atop the grass levee. Mile-wide, turbulent flow sweeps continental lifeblood south. Stop, ponder, full rising moon rises. Who sent Creole boys north to forget birthright born of parishes, instilled Ojibwe heritage, ashamed of speech, losing sight of who he is, perspective of the myth. Tapestry woven of dreams and hopes, proof that melanin does not decide your fate. Changing history is not easy. Aloof to those who would hinder his way, debate. Full moonrise lights his way home, now at peace, determined. The berating voices cease. Thank you. And the third poem is for my wife. This is called Cliche. Opposites attract, they say, along with all the other worn out cliches, sprinkling the language, overused, shunned by real writers, whose credentials from ivy-covered halls make me wonder if MFA is an expletive instead. You and I are so alike that an X and a Y separate the subtle differences, stubborn playground sense of justice, veracity for the word, devouring novels and short stories with alacrity. The spots got worse. Holes in the page, one eye compensating for the other, holding them up, blind leading the blind. I am so afraid I'll fail you in this coming darkness. If I could, I would give you my sight to spare you this pain, because our love is deeper, unspoken. I liked you first, friend before lover. I see your anxious worry and angry words spoken from one self-sufficient, so independent. I pray that God and doctors can fix this. We can watch the sunsets, counting the days one at a time. No promises for eternity, just your warmth as I hold you now. Thank you. Cataract surgery next month.
Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. My wife had both eyes done really early, like 45 years old, had both cataract surgeries. It'll go just fine. Mary Gunn, please. Are you with us, Mary?
Hello, Glenn, and thank you, and hello to all your other poets there. I have 3 senru for you this evening. The first one is Perfume Lingers in the Polling Booth, May evening. I'll read that again. Perfume lingers in the polling booth, May evening. And my second one is Long Weekend, Cat and I both sleep late. Long weekend, Cat and I both sleep late. And my third one is one that just came back to my mind when you were reading the one about your aging parents or your aging fathers. It's one that was published in one of your journals, 3-line poetry. And it goes like this. Mum was 69. Dad made it to his 90s. Now just me and Sis. I'll read that again. Mum was 69. Dad made it to his 90s. Now just me and Sis.
Wow, there's so much devastation in that last piece and so few words. I mean, I felt this twinge in my gut, that we all feel that when the parents are gone. Like now it's just us thing, or now it's just me. Well, that hit hard. Very, very nice. Thank you, Mary, so much for coming and sharing that one with us and the others too. Very, very nice. Okay, now for a bright shining light, KB Ballentine.
Thanks, Glenn. And I don't know if anybody noticed it earlier. Bob, I think, mentioned something that you wrote was akin to Ted Kooser. And I've got a link up there for anybody who's interested in Ted Kooser's work. Hopefully that showed up in the chat. I've got 3 poems today. I've chosen some oldies, hopefully goodies. This one was published in Haight-Ashbury in 2016, called Permanence Has Nothing to Do with Love. Stones tumble from collapsing fences. Ivy spills the gaps, loops and reddens as fall follows fast. Stars purling the long, dark night. From the sea, a salt breeze stirs, storms the shore in a surge of spray, cold, colder. Across the cove, a neighbor's candle flicks the darkness, licks their window with light, moon a sharp groove in the heavens. Any place we love becomes our world. That world is you. Sheets snap on the line, ghosts abandoned to the shadows, winter encroaching. And that one line that's probably the best that everybody's going to point out, any place we love becomes our world, is an Oscar Wilde quote. So if you loved it, now you know why. And I'm coming to you from Greenville, Tennessee.
Kind of sounded a little like Seidel to me. The way that the speed, there was a speed to that was clearly something you had in mind when you wrote the piece. It was good.
Thank you.
Frederick Seidel, if anybody doesn't know.
This one has an epigraph from Federico Garcia Lorca, and it's called, it was published in Raconteur magazine in 2019, called Recreation. And the epigraph is, if blue is dream, what then innocence? Recreation. It is the laughter of your 3-year-old neighbor when you sail soapy bubbles, her fingers reaching for the drifting moons. It's the adoration in your dog's eyes when you nuzzle close and stroke his ears, even when shoe leather scatters the hallway. Your son's trust when you subtract the training wheels, when you run behind him as he cycles away. It's your mother losing her words and her way, letting you lead her back to the white-walled room, tuck her into bed. Iridescent, transparent, reflective, the world balanced on a quivering wand, forming with your breath.
Wow. Very nice.
Thank you. And this is very against the grain, as those of you who've heard me before know, I do not often rhyme. American Diversity Report took this back in March of 2009. And it's a poem for Sylvia Plath, and it's got an epigraph from her poem Death and Company that says, the frost makes a flower, the dew makes a star, the dead bell, somebody's done for. And this is called Unwishing for Sylvia Plath. The stars fall all around me like leaves, they brush my face, and all that's left above is dark and empty space. Though daddy's wrapped with satin, the worms have made their meal. Once, twice, I tried to join him and never really healed. Unfulfilled in London town, gray and raw with grit. When I found you, my God, my love, my heart discharged its bit. Our flame flared brief, and in the dark, our spirits too bold crashed, like mirrors, a clock that cracked, or blood-red poppies turned to ash. You led me to a narrow box with corners tight and small, gave yourself, then stole away. I'm like our daughter's doll. Empty-headed, glassy-eyed, I try to write but can't. The night is getting cold, colder. I choose the final dance. The stars are falling upward now. I follow where they lead. Their silver shards slice hands and heart. My body ends. My poems, seeds. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Very nice. Again, that speed too. You held on to that all these years. Your bag of tricks, very nice. That my heart discharges bit. I like that line. Right, we'll go to Debbie Walker last, please.
Hey y'all. Usually from Decatur, today I'm in Savannah, Georgia. So yes, it's hot. It's very, very hot. Very beautiful though. My first one is a reworking of a poem. You might remember it from a long time ago, Gwen. I don't know if anyone else will, but I changed some things around in it. Maybe you'll recognize it. It's called Pantone for Gabe, 1958 to 1981. Flecked with the promise of all you might have been, the chestnut copper of your hair blowing in the wind. You broke the code you knew so well and chose to dive alone. The small white scar above your lip, a past I'd never known. The chestnut copper of your hair blowing in the wind. Beat up guitar case close at hand, pocket full of songs. The small white scar above your lip, a past I'd never known. I know you tried to call me twice, but I wasn't home. Beat up guitar case close at hand, pocket full of songs. Telephone lines from full of anguish, wondering where you'd gone. I know you tried to call me twice, but I wasn't home. You were there to hold me up when I was on my own. Telephone lines full of anguish, wondering where you'd gone. Yesterday you'd shyly sung the verses that we wrote. You were there to hold me up when I was on my own. Yesterday you'd shyly sung the verses that we wrote. You had perfect penmanship, but didn't leave a note. I know you tried to call me twice, but I wasn't home. You broke the code you knew so well and chose to dive alone. And the second one's called Belle Epoch. Summer slips by, passing sweetly, silent as the end in autumn. Fall stays at bay while summer steals the show. The air is close and dense as a smothering lover, standing by to stifle every need outside the circle of his arms. But oh, the flowers smolder. Bright as fall fires, big show-offy blooms, multi-layered and melodious music to the soul that can be stirred. A milkshake of cool vanilla, laced with plump Washington cherries, confectionery mousse of whipped cream topping Excelsior. As unnecessary and excessive as the dinner plate dahlia I've lately become. Redundant as 5th of July fireworks, yet some still do celebrate.
Redundant as 5th of July fireworks. That was great.
Okay.
All right.
I have a short one. I have one more.
Sure, of course.
Okay. This is from recent headlines. Child star and his service dog found dead in car in Peoria. A child star, most beloved for the role as the sidekick of Elf on television, was found dead in his car after going to an ATM to deposit residual checks. The checks were in the car uncashed after so many years of being off the scene, off the screen, off the grid to Hollywood. Did he succumb to the heat, to the fright of defeat, or the ravages of bipolar disorder? He lived with that beast and also his service dog, Hans, who perished beside him in unforgiving Arizona heat. The car, a coffin with 2 bodies, was otherwise unremarkable, unnoticed for days, baking in temperatures over 115 degrees, and that's how it happens, isn't it? By degrees. But what really happened, had the bubbling circumstances spilled over, withdrawing rational thought? Where were the checks and balances that would have left this pair unarmed, unharmed? Where was the magical alien life form when he was really needed by the boy? Was the creature really just a mass of sticky faux fur, a costume stuck in a forgotten closet on some Hollywood soundstage? Where, for God's sake, was the A-Team when one of their young co-stars deliriously teetered between life and death? A previous visitor on the Twilight Zone, Mr. H was alone in this desert, except for his trusty canine companion, always by his side. And just like all the films we hate, one question remains, an incredulous why. Why did the dog have to die? Death stalks the parched air. TV stars fall from the screen, human, just like us.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
that. Okay, for those who tuned in on Facebook or YouTube, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next month if all the stars align. I appreciate all the posts. If you stick around for just a couple of minutes, we'll make an announcement and let us know what you think.